Biodiversity loss. This is perhaps the worst overstepping that we've done of planetary boundaries. This may be even worse than climate change. This may be the issue that extinguishes or radically alters life on Earth. So it's been called the sixth mass extinction. Now, in the journals in the last 10 years, the science literature has changed dramatically in tone. Normally, science literature is very conservative. Normally, they talk in sort of in tones that are right away from anything that might sound sensationalist. But now the language is changing. These are the leading biologists. And they're saying things like humans are responsible. The sixth mass extinction is already here, and the window for effective action is very short. Species are being lost at about 1,000 times faster than the background rate for the last 10,000 years. So here's some research from last year. We know now that about 10% of all animal species are now extinct, and the extinction rate is actually 200 times faster than the previously accepted extinction rate, the IUCN Red List, which is the generally accepted international standard. But the science is telling us now that the extinctions are 200 times greater than what we thought they were. And this is the sort of language that we're hearing more often. Our results re-emphasize the extreme urgency of taking massive global actions to save humanity's crucial life support systems. So this language is not unheard of, but it's becoming more and more common. And here are the biodiversity loss hotspots. And where are they? They correspond with where our agricultural activity is, largely, particularly grazing, but also cropping. What I'd like to do is talk to you a little bit about the life that's left on Earth. When we came out of the last ice age about 10,000 years ago, humans were eking a living. We were just holding on by the skin of our teeth, as they used to say. But since then, we have got together, we've ganged together, we've declared that nature is ours for the taking, and we've done that. And this has been done at the expense of wildlife. It's also been done with the miracle of the Green Revolution. What's happened is that the Green Revolution largely has relied on nitrogen fertilizer. And nitrogen fertilizer has been pulled out of thin air. Plants need a lot of nutrients to grow, but the main macronutrients are nitrogen, phosphorus, potassium. So nitrogen is the big one, and that's the limit of nitrogen in most growing systems is what limits growth. So what we've done is we've used this Haber-Bosch process to pull nitrogen out of reactive nitrogen out of thin air. In the atmosphere, 70% of it is nitrogen, but it's unreactive. And then we pull it out of there, we make it reactive, and we put it on plants, and they go nuts. So the Green Revolution has come on the back of nitrogen fertilizer. And this has allowed us to grow the number of animals on Earth dramatically. Have a look at this. This is a diagram of all the mammals on Earth, the wild vertebrates, hot-blooded that give birth to children. Humans on this. Some people say there's too many people on Earth. Well, there are, but we don't. We're a minority. We weigh about a third of the life on Earth now. Farmed animals, on the other hand, weigh 60%. So about twice our weight we have it in farmed animals. For every man, woman, and child on the planet, we have about 20, 25 animals. And it's feeding those mouths, it's feeding those animals that's placing the impact on the earth. And of course, all of those animals are young, they're babies, they're growing crazy. So they need a lot of food. So they eat actually 5 times what humans eat. So it's this imbalance that has totally distorted the system and blown it up, as we'll see. So farmed animals make up 60%, but they eat more than twice that much. Pets, by the way, are 1%. But what's left of wildlife? This is from the marsupial mouse up to the elephant to the whales. They now represent, by weight, just 4% of the biomass of mammals on Earth. So we've totally changed the dynamic of life on Earth. We've forgotten that we rely on functioning ecosystems where these other animals can thrive so that we can thrive, and we've forgotten that. And what's placing that pressure on those ecosystems is not so much humans, but the animals that we breed. The latest figures are that wildlife populations have shrunk by nearly 70%. Half the plants are gone, half the fish are gone. The fish that we eat, we've got rid of 80 to 90% of those. So we've dramatically altered life on Earth. Every so often, the United Nations get together. They have another COP, Committee Conference of the Parties, and this is on biodiversity. And they had one in 2020, and they looked at all their progress right around the world. They looked at all their progress, and they said that we're getting nowhere. They said no strategic development goal has been met, none. And only the highest level of ambition will give a realistic chance of stopping and beginning to reverse biodiversity loss by 2050. That was back in 2020. They had another meeting last year where they decided, hey guys, we're going to do something about this. So let's dedicate 1/3 of the world. Let's give that back to nature. And they made all these grand plans, but there's nothing behind it yet. So I'm predicting that we'll have the same story next time unless something radically changes. None of their goals will have been met. So what drives biodiversity loss? Well, very simple. Biodiversity equals habitat. If you take away a wild animal's habitat, you're killing it. You're taking away its food sources, you're taking away its living area, you're taking away the systems that support the life of these animals and plants. So cattle farming is now agreed to be the greatest driver of biodiversity loss. Remember, this is the science telling us this. This is not my opinion. 80% of agricultural land is devoted to livestock and feed. So meat is the biggest threat to wildlife. It's not feral cats, it's meat. Actually, I did an interesting little study last year where in Australia, they say feral cats are causing havoc amongst our wildlife. But I dug into that in a little more detail and discovered that what we do is we actually actively suppress the apex predator, which is the dingo. They call them wild dogs so that we don't feel so bad about it, but 75% of all the wild dogs that are killed in the name of agriculture are dingoes. And if you take away the dingoes, then you take away the control on the feral cats. So the beef and sheep producers, by taking away the apex predator, they've exacerbated the feral cat situation. but that's just around the peri-urban areas and the urban areas. Out in the bush, so to speak, you don't get feral cats. But if you take away the habitat, you take away the life of the animals as well. So it's been known for a long time, this is just one piece of literature of many, that the no-meat diet is the most effective action to prevent biodiversity loss. So what do I mean? What happens when biodiversity loss reaches the limit? You get ecological collapse. So let's have a look at this for the Amazon. Amazon is the largest rainforest on Earth. It has the richest biome, and they have this really interesting dynamic where the Amazon rainforest generates its own rain. They call it the river in the sky. So the Amazon River itself takes water out to the east. In the sky above comes the river in the sky holding just as much water, and it flows east to west. And it rains on the Amazon, and then it turns south and it waters the Brazilian and other countries south of there. So Brazil has an incredibly productive agricultural system. They get 2 and sometimes 3 crops a year rain fed. So it depends totally on this rain. And what we're doing is this water cycle is worth a lot of money. And what's happening is that that cycle, the river in the sky, is faltering. We've had droughts in the Amazon for the first time ever in the last decade. That's starting to falter. So, and this is changing the life of the rainforest. And that Amazon generated rain is faltering. Most species in the Amazon are already affected, and we're close to reaching a tipping point. What they're saying is that if we deforest 20% of the Amazon, this will disrupt that water cycle. And if that water cycle stops, then the most of the Amazon will revert to open savanna. In other words, it will be rainforest no longer, with all that rich species diversity and oxygen produced, etc. And of course, when we do that, when we take away the habitat, we also encourage zoonotic disease spillover from animals to human. So we've reached that 20% tipping point. We're having the first ever droughts, and Amazonia is expected to revert to open savanna if we continue. This is ecological collapse right here. Why is the deforestation happening? We know it's for grazing animals and feed crops. And it was a paper came out just a couple of months ago that said that even if we do one simple thing, if we look at supply chains and we stop the beef that comes from deforestation from Brazil, if we just do that one thing, we will halve the deforestation in Brazil. So there is the power of diet over the ecology of one of the most important biomes on Earth.